Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder it's time to have a look at probably one of the last devblogs we're going to see for update 1.87, the Leopard 2A5. And the reason why I say that is because if we have a look on the PlayStation Store for the Australians, we can see that the pre-order packs are ready. Now, the way it works for PlayStation or Sony is that you have to put up the packs 48 hours before something is released, therefore people can play it or people can buy it, yada yada yada, and it is on the Australian side of things, at least on PlayStation. But what is curious is when I check the Canadian one, it isn't ready yet. So my guess is that what we're looking at is probably a Wednesday or Thursday release for update 1.87. My money would be on Thursday. There has been no action from the Microsoft Store, if I have made sure to check properly, or at least nothing different from before. So therefore, it's looking like it's all going to be revolving around the PlayStation Store, meaning that Thursday would be my bet. Now, let's have a chat about the Leopard 2A5. The one that we're getting into game is a big upgrade over the Leopard 2A4. One of the interesting things is if you look at the vehicles which are being added, the M1A1 with the 120, I would say is not a huge upgrade over the M1. The only thing it's really gaining is more penetration on the gun. On top of this, the T80U is a big upgrade over the pre-existing T80 that we have in the game, but it still has the same weak spots. When we look at the Challenger 2, it is, in my opinion, exactly the same as the Challenger 1. When it comes to its armor, it has the same weak spots. The Leopard 2A5 is different. It's actually got a hell of a lot more armor. Yes, it has the same gun, but it has access to DM33, and also the turret is a lot faster. I believe the reload rate is about the same, and the speed is about the same. So all of the tanks that are being added are direct upgrades over their counterparts, but for me, the Leopard 2A5 is the largest, and the reason for this is basically down to its armor. The armor is the one that makes a lot of the difference. When we did the armor testing on the dev server, and I understand they do say they do say that the armor stats for the Leopard 2A5, the Challenger 2, the Ariete, and also I believe the M1A1 were not complete on the dev server, but in this dev blog, they do talk about the armor here. The turret's front sides keep your vehicle well protected on their own, with up to 600mm of protection against kinetic and up to 850mm against chemical shots. This is talking about this area here. So if this area here is that strong, this little area here, then the front area I can easily see as impenetrable. So when it comes to this tank, the armor values on the dev server were crazy. They were absolutely insane. Even with the little pyramids knocked off, you still couldn't pen the turret with the best round in the game, which was the M1 Abrams. And I feel like we're going to get a similar scenario when it hits live. We're going to see a vehicle which is just going to dominate when it comes to the armor department. One of the things that a lot of people have brought up is, well, the T80U has got really good armor and, it's going to be hard to kill. Yeah, you're right. But the T80U has a lot of downsides on top of that. The reload of the gun isn't the best. Gun depression is a problem. Its speed is good, which is nice, but the massive weak spots that the T80U has, and I know maybe some of you don't see them as massive, but they are. When it comes to the gun breech, when it comes to the driver's hatch, which takes up a lot of the upper glacis of the vehicle, and then you've got the lower glacis. With the Leopard 2A5, the literal weak spots are a turret ring, which is incredibly small to hit on this vehicle, and then the lower glacis, where there isn't composite armor. So we're talking about areas which are generally hard to hit and ones which can be easily missed, especially as you can see in this video here. The turret ring is incredibly small on this machine. And what I mean by that is if you look at the M1 Abrams, it's as if the vehicle has been raised. It's as if like the vehicle itself has just been used to expose its turret ring. I'll show you what I mean in this. If we have a look in a picture like this, you can see this huge area, right? Where the shadow is, showing pretty much the turret ring, which is no armor at all. If we look at the Leopard, that is not the case. It's just this small line here. So even that weak spot is a rough hit. Now, one of the things that was easy to do on the dev server was knocking off the triangles. But what it also did was that it didn't make a difference. And this is a big thing. So, in my opinion, what should happen is the triangles that it had should be able to soak up quite a few shots, or maybe one HE or one heat FS. Once that's done, what it should be able to do is then be penned through the turret. I think what was happening when they talk about bugged armor was the fact that the armor underneath the triangles was too strong. Because if that's the case, then first of all, the triangles don't matter. It doesn't really matter that they're there. And second of all, this thing is nearly impenetrable from the front. And from a vehicle that's going to be one of the most popular in the patch, just because of its history, just because of the power of its gun, and just because of the speed behind it, it's very sad to see that if this thing does come out in the state that it was in the dev server, which I'm sure there will be changes, there's going to be all hell breaking loose. Because I don't think if you put two skilled people, of average skill, let's say they have the same skill against each other in the M1A1 Abrams and the Leopard 2A5, I don't think the M1A1 touches this thing. Because at the end of the day, this can soak shots, and you have to be very precise in your shooting. Against the M1A1 Abrams, you can lol pen it from anywhere. And that is the difference. The DM33 can go through the front of the Abrams wherever it feels like. We tested it at 1,000 meters. And it's not as if, they've said that the armor's getting better. They said that it has the same turret as the IPM1, which in-game does get lol-penned by the DM33 right now. Another thing that is not getting taken into consideration, which is worrying, in my opinion, is the power creep idea. So, we've seen it over the last year in tanks, that tanks have got obviously progressively better, progressively higher in BR, and all of these were 10-0 on the dev server. Now, because of that, I have a worrying feeling that these are all going to come out at 10-0, and it's going to be impossible to play anything else from that 10-0 barrier to 9-0. And the reason is these tanks are way better than the pre-existing 10-0s. The M1 Abrams is a literal downgrade on the M1A1. The Leopard 2A5 is a massive upgrade off the 2A4, so on and so forth. So when these things get moved up to 10.3, 10.7, it's just going to be all hell to play when you play the worst versions of these vehicles. And this is an issue that we generally have a lot when it comes to modern vehicles, unless they take a few liberties when it comes to either doing the armor, doing the gun, all of this stuff. Because at the end of the day, we have machines which are designed to be much better than their counterparts and much better than their previous versions. So, what you end up with is a series of vehicles where slowly they just get better and better and better, making the one before them obsolete. And because of that, you either have to add them all at the same time, which is what we've seen, or there's going to be gaps. Think about it in this way. The Leopard 2A5 isn't the most modern version of the Leopard that we can see. The M1A1 Abrams is definitely not the most modern version of the Abrams that we can see. The Challenger 2 pretty much is. You could do some slight upgrades to it, maybe give it some external armor, and give it its armor package, and yes, you could label it as a different vehicle, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't be that much different compared to the one that Britain uses today. On top of this, Japan has the Type 10, which, from all my reading, seems to have exactly the same armor as the Type 90, even with its armor package on it. And the reason why it was built like that was because of the terrain that it has to go over. The Soviets have a lot of growing to do. But we're getting to the point with some of the nations, like once the Ariete comes in, not the Ariete P, and once the Leclerc comes in, which I'm sure will be pretty soon, we're heading into a dead stop when it comes to these modern vehicles. And what happens after that is definitely going to be interesting to see. But at this moment in time, we are just playing a game of who is going to get the best modern vehicle and how many people are going to play it. It reminds me a lot of the jets right now, where we have the Mitsubishi T2 coming in, which is what could be classed as the next stage of aggression. The Leopard 2A5 I see as the same thing. A vehicle which does have counterparts when it comes to real life, but does not have any in-game. Just like the T2. And hopefully, this thing doesn't dominate for an update, because I don't want it to. I would rather have an equal playing field, because at the end of the day, if this thing does dominate for a patch, then what we're going to end up with is a lot worse situation, where something else is brought in to deal with it, which also dominates. A few things I do want to mention on the dev server when we did the testing. The two bugs that we found were that the blowout panels did not work on this machine. It just popped the turret anytime the ammunition in the back of the turret was blown up. And on top of this, when you took 15 rounds, which should have filled the first order ammo, instead it went into the hull. So we'll be looking for those bugs when the update comes out, hopefully it is soon, to see if that is still the case for the Leopard 2A5. And once again, one of the things I'm personally looking forward to in this update is the econ changes, so I can get my hands on some more of these modern vehicles. I hope I'm wrong about the Leopard 2A5. I hope that we have a balanced game, top tier, but I don't see it. I just don't see right now how you do it unless you artificially nerf this thing when it comes to its armor. Because you can't do it by gun anymore, because now we have equations. You would have to artificially change some of the constants in the equations to change, how good the gun is. You would have to artificially nerf the engine or the armor, one of the two. Or maybe there is a different way. We'll have to see. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.